much for that very kind introduction. Good afternoon, everyone. So America is often considered a conservative nation, and compared to other advanced industrialized societies, America is more religious, has a smaller welfare state, tolerates a larger gap between rich and poor, and many Americans remain skeptical on issues ranging from Darwinian evolution to global climate change. And the differences between America and Europe are sometimes quite striking. And they become even more so when you have politicians such as Sarah Palin or Michelle Bachmann rising to the forefront. At some points, you sort of wonder how wide the Atlantic really is. I'm going to do my best to explain a bit about what conservatism in America is all about. Revere it is the source of much of the baseline conservatism in America, both on the left and the right. It's the source of much of the consensus about political action. The essential elements of American conservative thinking are many. There are various kinds of American conservatives. They believe different things. Not all of them are compatible with each other. So you have traditionalists who believe in the legacy passed down from past generations. They want to hold on to that and preserve it. You have neoconservatives who are aggressive promoters of democracy around the world. You have libertarians who are very opposed to big government and high taxes. And you have religious conservatives, often fundamentalist Christians, who are they're motivated by their faith more than a lot of other conservatives are. So they tend to be lumped together into the Republican Party, but conservatives of all different kinds can be found in both major parties in America. But the answer is always a complex one. Well, America has a unique political past. There's no rich ground for the kind of conservatism that we see in Europe's past, for example. There's no feudalism in the past of America, with one exception with slavery. But by and large, you don't have a feudal past or an established church that conservatives can latch onto and defend. So conservatives in America all subscribe to the notion of human equality, human freedom, and so that gives them a kind of flexibility that might not have been there if the past had been different. The presence of the frontier throughout American life in the first couple of centuries caused Americans to develop a very strong individualistic streak, and that has caused many conservatives to actually defend a great deal of liberty, which conservatives in other places of the world may not be strong defenders of in the same way. So there's a difference in how the history of America affects modern conservative thought. A variety of different outcroppings of the American conservative movement. In the 1990s, you had the Christian Coalition leading the charge among conservatives. During the George W. Bush administration, it was the neoconservatives who seemed to take over the Republican Party. Now you have the Tea Party, which is more strongly libertarian, and they are influencing Republican policy more so than the other elements of the Republican Party. So you have these rather strong groups, strong feeling groups within a major political party in America, and maybe under a different political system they would form their own party. But the way that American politics works, they have to work within a major party. And so you see this outcropping of one group or another group as time goes on, depending on what they're reacting. It cost him a lot of support in Congress in the recent elections in 2010. It wiped out a lot of his supporters in Congress. But on the other hand, it also gives him something to campaign against when he's up for re-election in 2012. So he can say the Republican Party is taken over by right-wing radicals, and look at the Tea Partiers, they're protesting everywhere and they're carrying pitchforks and brandishing their weapons. So it might very well be a gift to him as he campaigns in 2012. I guess we'll see what happens. They seem to have stopped many of his programs right now, at least a lot of his planned programs. But on the other hand, they run the risk, and so do the Republicans, of looking like they just want to block everything. And that can be dangerous for the Republican Party in 2012. So the question is, which one will better capture the middle? The Tea Partiers captured it better in 2010. Barack Obama captured it very well in 2008. And so the question is, where is the American middle going to go in 2012? An establishment, I think, has been happy to stand out of the way, at least during the 2010 campaign, and let the Tea Partiers take on the Democratic establishment quite effectively. But now that there are many Tea Party-supported candidates in Congress, and the Tea Party has shown it's willing to criticize Republicans as well as Democrats, the Republicans have to make sure that they can channel the energy of the Tea Party to make sure that Tea Party supporters stay with their Republican candidates, but not turn the Republican Party too radical. Because again, you have to be able to win a majority in each of the many congressional districts throughout the country, or at least more than anyone else gets. And the Republican Party is in danger of running into that risk. The Obama administration and the Democrats overplayed their hand after the 2008 elections. The Republicans are in danger of doing that now. They seem to know that, but the question of whether they can actually moderate the influences of the Tea Party movement remains. Economy is going to be a big one. Are we going to be pulling out of the situation where we have almost double-digit unemployment? If the economy gets much better, then President Obama is going to have a much easier time of winning re-election. If it stays where it is or dips down even more, then his opponents are going to have more of an advantage. Foreign policy seems to be much more important these days as well, not only with the ongoing efforts in Iraq and Afghanistan, but with the protests, the possible regime changes in places like Egypt. Americans have their eye on all of this, and they want to see who could be an effective leader for American interests overseas, not just at home. And back to the domestic issues again, the healthcare reform bill, if that goes through the court system and gets upheld, then that can be something that Barack Obama can run upon as a great achievement during his first term. If it gets overturned by the Supreme Court, I don't know if it will be before the 2012 elections, but that could be another important factor.